Hey everyone, Paul ISM. Welcome to part one of our Alpha Models 1/24 scale Audi RS4 Avant video build. Now, this is being built as part of the ISM resin group build that we're hosting over on, surprise, surprise, ISM. If you want to take part, go on over there and have a look around. You'll find the details to join in. And basically, it just needs to be a kit that is majorly made of resin. So if you've got a trans kit, which is a resin body, or a full resin kit like this, it's eligible to take part in. So go and have a look at details of that. For me, I chose this subject. I got these recently. Loads of people commented they want to see the RS4. I admittedly wouldn't have chose it as my first choice because it's all got Ferraris and all sorts there. But I'm a big fan of these cars, and they've just announced the release of the RS6 as well, which is awesome. So I decided to do this. Picking a colour was a bit of a nightmare. Got there in the end, and you'll see that as we go. And a few changes in the way to do 2K. The way I've been doing it. Will it work? Don't know. You'll have to stick around and see, won't you? So make sure you sub to the channel, click the bell notification, give the video a thumbs up, and leave a comment down below as well. Love reading your comments, and stick around and let me know what you think of the video at the end. Hey everyone, please subscribe to the channel, click the bell notifications, get notified of our latest videos, give the video a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and leave a comment. I do read and appreciate every comment you guys and girls leave behind. I may not reply to them all, but they are all appreciated. And there's a link in the description of the video that takes you to a big long list of all handy videos and a lot of the products I use in my videos. You now have the chance to support the video content creation by using Patreon or the PayPal me link in the description down below. All the videos will always remain free to watch. This is just your chance to help support the videos. Okay, so as I said, this is the Alpha Models Audi RS4 Avant. Now I reviewed this. There's a review over on ISM. If you go and have a look, it looks a great kit. Some of the best cast resin I've ever seen. Multimedia kit, so we get some photo etch in there. Some nice metallic decals and so on and so forth, and this beautiful big molded resin body, which is absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful, almost flawless. We just need to remove a few wisps of excess resin and just use our razor saw just to clear the profile of one of the panel lines on the rear bumper. But what a beautiful piece of resin. Like I say, if you're not watching the review, it's worth going to have a look to see the quality of this kit. Yes, they're not cheap. It's £150. There's no engine in this either. It's not a high part count kit, but there's no other Audi RS4 kit out there, and it is on multimedia, high quality kit, and I'm happy to pay the price for these. And they've just announced the release of the RS6 as well, so I'll be picking that up when we can. So I've got an 800 customizable UMP sander here, and just gently sand inside those A, B, and C pillars to remove the light wisps of excess resin that are in there. Nothing major, just a few little wisps. You could probably wipe it off with your finger, but I just thought I'll go around with a sander and get rid of it that way instead. Nice, quick, easy work. We've got a few other parts. We've got the door handles to paint up because they are colour coded as well. And the little shark's fin antenna for the back to do as well. Like I say, these little seam lines just at the front of the bumper, just not very well defined. So got a razor saw in there to just very gently add the detail back. So just a quick run in, very gently, no real pressure at all. Same on the other side as well, and that's it really for the rest of the kit. It's all clean, nice resin, ready to go. So just usual prep now. So we've got some UMP airbrush cleaner, anything alcohol based, or you could use washing up liquid, Dawn, dish soap, fairy liquid, whatever you want to call it, and clean the body up. It's important on resin because they do use mold release agents on the resin molds. So use anything like alcohol based or detergent based. I like our cleaner, it works well. I've got a toothbrush, I'm just going to run it all around, getting all those nooks and crannies and panel lines, making sure we get any nasties off that we don't want on there. So unlike a plastic kit, no primer is going to bite into this. There's no plastic to bite into, so it can be a little bit of a weaker bond with the paint, and it does chip off quite easily if you're not careful. So bear that in mind. So you need to do the best prep job you can do. And this is the way I like to do it, with an old toothbrush, some airbrush cleaner, and 5-10 minutes of a bit of elbow grease to go through and clean it all up. Like I say, make sure you're getting all these little nooks and crannies. Anywhere you're going to paint, get in there with the toothbrush and give it a really good clean. You can never be too thorough. Just be careful with this body. It is resin. If you drop it, there's a good chance something's going to chip off or break. While it has some structural strength to it, it does break quite easily if you're not careful. Once you're done the toothbrush, nice clean piece of kitchen paper and a quick rub over to dry it all off. Just be careful again not to snap any parts off or apply too much pressure anywhere that you shouldn't be. It's easy to break stuff, trust me. This is strong stuff, but it's not that strong and it's not very flexible either. So just take your time and get it all nice and clean. And try not to touch it now if you can with your fingers if possible. And if you do, make sure you remember where and wipe it off at the end when you're done. Now we've got my 3000 grit TAMIYA sponge here. And we're going to key the body up. So we're going to go around and just lightly sand all the body to give it a slightly rougher texture. You can see the difference from the smoother resin finish. It comes as standard. And the theory of this is it just helps the primer bond. Whether it does or doesn't, either way, it's a step I always do. And it's just a 5-minute case to go around the body and gently sand it over. We're not trying to move anything. We're just taking off any high spots, any rough pieces, which isn't on this. Same principle if you're doing it on paint. But more importantly, we're just scuffing the surface to give it a rougher surface, so it's microporous, and will hopefully allow the paint to grip a bit better. Whether it will, I don't know, but I always do it as a matter of course anyway. And then mounting it. So the TAMIYA stands are no good on these kits. They're just too heavy and too cumbersome. So I had to get some 3M double-sided pads, some tongue depressors, glue them and stick them in place. Very nice and secure way of doing this. As you can see, just putting a piece at the back, piece at the front. Again, be careful applying any pressure. Don't go too mad. Just be nice and gentle. And there we go. That's it ready to go. And then one nice big pad on the top of an old aerosol can for now. These 3M pads you can get on Amazon. They're not that expensive and you get loads of them and they are super sticky. Total confidence that this won't come off. And there we go. That is now mounted for primer. And speaking of primer, quick dust over with the anti-static brush in the spray booth. And we're going to hit this up with some TAMIYA white fine surface primer that's been decanted from the can, thinned about 20% with TAMIYA thinner retarder. We've got our 0.35 apex at about 18 psi, and we're going to put down several coats of this building up. So the first few coats will be nice and light, and building it up nice and slow. Don't go too mad, especially with white. White's a very finicky colour to spray, and it's very easy to overspray and get runs and the paint spread or fisheye. So just bear in mind, just put a light coat down, let it dry for 5 minutes. It flashes off really quick, especially in warmer weather. And the beauty of this, at this stage, if you get any hairs in it, you can get it off. And here we are, probably third coat in, maybe, coming back. But we get progressively wetter and wetter with the coats because the TAMIYA TS sprays do like to go on wetter. They do self-level. They are aerosol sprays. Up until the last coat here, we're putting down a fairly nice wet coat without going crazy, and just making sure we're getting all those nooks and crannies and crevices, the diffuser, all the spoiler bits everywhere, and getting a nice even coat of paint everywhere. So as you can see, just take your time, go around. Consistency is key, going on and off the air after each pass. That way we don't get any spits. Just go spit on the glove there, you see, because I did it off the model, and I'd rather do it off the model than on. Now, paint. I wasn't going to go originally with TS23, but I thought it was a touch too light, so I'm going to add a little bit of TS44 in there. So this has been freshly decanted, left to off gas for 24 hours. We've thinned it a bit with some TAMIYA lacquer thinner with retarder, and I've put some in a spare bottle. I'm going to mix up the darker blue. I'm just going to add a little bit by eye, no measurement whatsoever. I'm just going by eye, but I don't want it too dark. But I just want to darken the tone a touch. So I've got the Badger paint mixer in there, whizzing away as we keep dropping in the paint until we're happy with the colour. So just go over a slightly darker tone of the TS23, just by a shade or two. And there we go, that's the colour. Plenty of that mixed up. And then after the primer's dried, probably a good 6 to 8 hours, overnight if you're not sure, we come with our 3000 TAMIYA sponge sander again and flat back all the primer. So we're doing this to get rid of any high spots where you may have had a spit of paint, or any dust landing. Just go around gently. I'm applying no pressure at all to this, none. And remove all those imperfections, and it gives us a smoother paint finish. And then drying it off with a clean piece of kitchen towel, gently. Don't go too mad on your high areas or your edges and that, because you burn through and you're going to have to reprime. Just take your time. It's exactly the same kind of pressure as when we're keying the butt paint. So silky smooth now, beautifully smooth. We've got the toothbrush and the panel lines again, and we've got our anti-static brush on there to ensure that nothing nasty gets caught in our paint. So we've got the TS paint, our mix of TS 23 and 44. 18 psi, 16, 18 psi, again 0.35 apex, and we're going to put down several coats. Now, just like the primer, put a thinner coat on to begin with, paying attention to all those crevices and recesses all around the door shuts, the window frames, everywhere around the bonnet, just everywhere. I've sped it up a little bit for the first coat, so we save a little bit of time. And I'll just show you the kind of first coat I put down. Now, this is unbelievably forgiving paint. Very, very forgiving paint. So it does like to go on wetter from my experience. But for the first coat, there's no need to go crazy. Concentrate on getting coverage in all those hard to reach areas, like in the boot lid, under the spoilers, under the diffuser, in that front windscreen mount there, around the doors. Just concentrate on getting a coat of paint in there to begin with. Don't get too hung up on trying to get it covered in one go. It's a bit of a journey painting. There's no rush, but we're trying to achieve the best finish we can. So just take your time, build it up nice and slow, and ideally that's about it for a first coat. It's not got good coverage, but it's got a good nice first coat down. And on the second coat, I'll leave this for about 5-10 minutes because it's a thin coat. It'll dry nice and quick, and then I'll come back, and on the second coat we'll go up and down. We're side to side on the first coat, as you can see. The next coat will go up and down, and that will get in all the crevices, panel lines. Sorry to keep saying crevices, I know. And ensure we get even coverage everywhere. And this, I would say this was probably about the 4th or 5th coat in. And this one's going to go down a bit wetter now, because it does like to go down wetter. It self-levels. It's a really nice paint. It does go down well. Beautiful colour. The camera and the light are lightening it a little bit. You'll see at the end the true colour once it's clear coated. It is a bit of a darker blue. But we're just trying to get down a nice wet coat now, and that will self-level into quite a nice paint finish. There's a little bit of orange peel, as the TS always does. But we're just concentrating on getting even coverage all round without getting any runs or any flaws, and minimising the amount of dust and crap. So I say crap, but it is, because it's been really doing my head in lately. We keep getting on our paint finishes. Now, we're going to have a little bit of a switch around today on our 2K and do it in a slightly different way. I've been talking about it all week on the live stream. Cleaned all the airbrushes. We changed the airbrush for the 2K, but we'll get to that a little bit later on and have a little chat. So like I say, I reckon that's 4 or 5 coats of paint. Put it to one side. Obviously, don't forget the antenna and the door handles at the same time. Every time you do a coat of paint on the body, do the handles and the antenna as well. Wheels, again, beautiful wheels. Clean them up with the UMP airbrush, cleaning them with the toothbrush. Just be thorough. Just treat every part as a sub-assembly and clean them all up as you would. Consistency is key. Consistency will make you a good model maker. Stick to what you know. I'm the worst to say this because I go back on this all the time and change stuff. And I'll show you today why you should stick with what you know, because it works so much better. So we wiped it over the toothbrush with the UMP airbrush cleaner on, dried it off with a piece of kitchen paper, and now we've got a cotton bud in there to dry it all off fully. Now I'm going to paint these in Mr. Hobby GX2, no primer. I'm going straight onto the resin with this. We're going to leave these wheels in gloss black. I think the gloss black and the gloss blue will look really nice together. And that's the look we're going for. So it's a beautiful painted GX2, very highly pigmented paint from Mr. Hobby. This has been thinned with Mr. Hobby Level and Thinner, about 50-60%. 0.3 apex, 16 psi again. We're going to put 2 coats down, followed by a wet coat at the end to get a nice glossy finish here. So make sure you get all the angles. There's a lot of angles and recesses on these wheels. So make sure you get in there and get them all covered, but don't hose it on to begin with. Take your time and build it up. Like I say, probably go over 2 coats. I did about 3 in the end. I did this coat at the beginning, which looks quite heavy. It's actually not. It's actually quite a light coat, this. Put it to one side to dry for 5-10 minutes. Not sure what's going on with the airbrush. I don't think my needle's quite seated forward because it's foaming at the mouth, as you can see. This is the third coat now. As you can see, we're putting down a bit of a wetter coat, and we get a nice gloss finish. And this stuff, what you get here now is roughly what it will dry like. So it's a good paint. It's a good high gloss paint, especially for metal finishes. But for us, we're going to leave them gloss black. Body shell, next day now. One thing to bear in mind, the TS sprays do stay a little bit tacky. So if you're handling it a lot, you will notice a stickiness to it. It's just the nature of the paints. So if you're unsure, leave for a couple of days or try and handle it as little as possible. But what I'm going to do here is what I forgot to do on both the Hobby Design Singer Porsche and the Aventador was spray in the window surround black before 2K. So we're going to do that now. First step after paint, we're going to mask up and paint them just like we do in window rubber surrounds, but we're going on top of the edge of the window. Rather than in it, we're going over the top, and then we're going to paint in there, and then later on our plastic perspex, whatever you call it, acetate windows is what they are actually, will slot right in and have a black background, and we won't see any unsightly blue showing through. So some careful masking with the 1 and 3mm TAMIYA tapes, and then we'll infill it with the 610 TAMIYA bigger tapes, and then some cling film to fill in the rest of the area later on. So a little bit of tedious masking. It wasn't what I had planned for the day here doing this, but hey, it needed doing, and yeah, it didn't take that long to do it all. Just some careful masking. Like I say, just follow the lines where you need to go, infill, and just go all the way around. It's a bit boring, but I'm doing these on live streams, chatting away to everybody, so it's not that bad of a thing to do. Whiles away the time while you're chatting away. But just make sure everything's lined up. If you're not happy, take it back off and start again. Like I say, you can infill it with the thicker 3mm tape then. Following all the lines, as you can see everywhere we've masked. So just take your time. We do have a little bit of bleed through at the end. There's a few areas we've missed, but I'll show how to get that off as well, which is always a handy tip to have. And then to infill the rest of it, we've got some cling film. Now, what I've noticed with the TS, because it stays tacky, if you put cling film on, it can leave marks. But I planned to flat it all anyway, so it's not the end of the world. But be aware, I'm putting cling film over unsealed decals. I have seen it pull them off before, so just be aware of that if you're using the cling film. If you're not unsure, be careful, and yeah, don't use it. We've got our Alpha rotary cutter, so we just whip a bit off, whip it in half, and that way we've got a straight edge. We don't need the full width. We can get some TAMIYA 10mm tape and just pop it onto the edge of this, like so. And this just saves so much time and waste of masking tape by filling in large areas really quick. So obviously make sure you detack your tape if you're going directly on the paintwork. If you're not, you don't need to worry as much because it's just going onto the masking tape. Put it onto the edge of the tape you already put on, fold it under, rinse, repeat until you've gone all the way around, including the roof. It's a quick, simple way of masking, saving money on masking tape because the cling film lasts forever. And yeah, it's a nice money-saving, time-saving tip. In the spray booth, got some TAMIYA LP5. We've got Apex 0.3. This has been thinned. This is my pre-thin bottle I keep in there because I use so much semi-gloss black. It's thinned about 60% with TAMIYA lacquer thinner with retarder. We're just going down, making sure all the edges of the tape are burnished down fully. And then we're going to apply a couple of light coats, just building it up slowly to infill and paint all the black trim. So like I say, I could do this after 2K, and why am I not? Because I trust the 2K more than the lacquer paint for holding CA glue. My theory is the 2K will prevent any paint peeling off more than paint on its own over the top of 2K. 2K is a very smooth surface, so paint adhesion is not going to be as good as it is on resin as such, or pure resin like this. So my thought was we'll do this 2K it when we put the windows on later, because they have black surrounds built into them. You won't see the glossiness really, and we hide all the unsightly blue. And that was my theory. So Some people are going to do it a different way. This is the way I chose to do it. And this boring step is then out of the way right at the beginning of the build, because it gets tedious at the end masking windows. And like I say, a couple of coats, getting all those angles into the recesses, all those AB pillars, the pillars in the boot as well, because we have to paint the inside black later on. But that's something we'll sort out later on down the build. And just make sure you're getting all those angles and all those little nooks and crannies and everywhere, and you're good to go. LP5 is a wonderful colour, by far the best semi-gloss black you can get in my opinion. And yeah, like I say, good to get this boring job out of the way. And I was going to say we can move on to something more interesting, but that's debatable. So like I say, unmasked it all. As you can see, we're left behind with a little bit of overspray as such. So we'll take the rest of the tape off and see the damage. And it does leave a little bit behind, unfortunately, just where the tape's not quite sealed. How to get rid of this? There's two ways you can do it. You can either use sander and do it, because it's lacquer paint on lacquer, so you can't use any lacquer thinner really. Acrylic thinner would take it off to a degree, but it'll damage the paint. The best way I've found is to use odorless mineral spirit, a sharp pointed cotton bud like the TAMIYA ones, and just rub, and it will gently just take the top layer of paint off, very gently. So whether the Sansador mineral spirit is actually doing anything, I don't know, but probably at the least it's providing a bit of lubrication while you're doing it. But watch, it'll literally disappear before your eyes. And I think it's more the friction rather than the chemical removing the paint, but it does the job well. And there we go, we take off all the excess overspray. It's not overspray really, it's where I've not masked properly. So there we go, nice and simple. Spend a little bit of time, a bit of care, and a bit of patience. You spent even more time and care and patience, Paul, in masking, you wouldn't have to do this. So take your own advice. Take your own advice. There we go. And then we're going to flat the entire body now to care for clear coat later on. Now what did happen was I had a couple of spots where paint, it looked like it'd been knocked. It was under all the windows. Whether I'd done it when I was masking up with tweezers, I don't know. So I did have to touch up a little bit of the paint. So I literally masked up the windows a little bit and just got the blue again and lightly airbrushed over. So we will have to key it back again later. But I'm just showing this step now as a matter of course, really. But we're trying to get the best paint finish possible. So we are going to flat back between every stage of paint. And that way we get rid of any high spots, any spits, any dust, and it will pay off in dividends in the end. Now, carbon. Wasn't looking forward to this. I knew some of the bits would be easy. This roof spoiler I knew it wouldn't be too bad, but the rear diffuser I knew was going to be a pig. And to be honest, it didn't turn out to be that bad. So we've got a lot to get through here. I'm going to kind of not dilly-dally around on it, as the video will be 24 parts long. But we're going to use this piece of 18mm TAMIYA tape to make a template. So we'll line the tape up with the back panel line there, like so, making sure it's all lined up. And then we're going to get a cocktail stick and mark the panel lines on the edge as well. Then we've got our knife with a brand new blade in and cut the panel lines. And then we use this as a template to cut out our carbon. That way we'll have a perfect piece at the top that just slots straight in. We'll do it for the side pieces, which are just below there as well. Sadly, we can't really do it anywhere else, like the roof rails, and there's some little trim on the side of the body as well, and the rear diffuser and front splitter. We're going to have to do by kind of hand, which is a little bit tricky, but we'll get it done. And like I say, there was a good 4 hours of footage doing this. It did take me quite some time during a live stream to do. And of the evening as well. I think it was out to about 9 o'clock one night doing this. But there we go. To define all the edges, put a brand new blade in our TAMIYA design knife. And just follow that panel line and just gently cut. As long as you follow the panel line, you'll be fine. And there we go. And then we remove the excess. Do that for both sides, and we're left with a nice little template. So you could also use the other way. You could put a piece of carbon decal on there to a rough size, get it all set in place, get it to start to conform to the panel line, cut it, remove the carbon. But sometimes, because you're conforming it, it makes it a little bit soft and it can rip, you ruin it and wasting the carbon, which isn't cheap at the end of the day. So I've opted to do this on this piece. It's a nice big prominent piece, so it's quite easy to do. And as you'll see in a bit, it fits absolutely perfect. It really did. And there we go, nice and simple. Just rip that off the back. We don't need the back piece. And there we go, there's our template made. And then we stick it on the carbon sheet. Now bear in mind, if you're doing handed parts, to make sure you put it on the right way. So number one, that it's the right way around, or you'll do the opposite side. So you might need to put them on the front sometimes, depending on how you cut them. Also make sure there's no white trim parts of the carbon decal sheet at the top. The amount of times I've cut out a template out of this to turn it over and see that I haven't cleared the white border. It's like, son of a, gotta be kidding me. And just trim very gently here. And make sure the carbon weave is going the correct way. You may have to mess around with it, turning it to get it to the angle you want. But yeah, it can be quite important to look. So it should always go at a diagonal angle to the horizontal, in my opinion. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but that's the way I do it, if that makes sense. But we're going to cut this out nice and straight. I don't need to worry about the front piece. The back piece is going to fold under, so it's not as important. So we'll just cut out the major shape first. So I'm going to show this one being fully fitted, and the rest of them we'll just kind of skip through, because like I said, it was about 5 hours of footage doing this. And we're already 25 minutes in the video on actual footage. So I am conscious of taking up the time, showing something a bit mundane and boring. But there we go, there's our basic shape. And then we'll just straighten up the back for now. Peel off our template, pour it to one side, because you might need it again. Into our water. And then pop it on top and line it up where we want it fitted. Pretty perfect fit, not too bad at all. Make sure it's all lined up symmetrical and into its panel lines where you want it. You can go ever so slightly into the panel lines because the decal solution will push it in. So you're better to go over slightly than be short. So a little bit of fettling and fiddling round, you can get it all lined up. There we go. Once you're happy, you get a cotton bud and get rid of any excess moisture from underneath. This is the TAMIYA carbon fibre. This is the twill weave. Goes down very well. I'm still on the fence of which one I prefer, whether I prefer the Scale Motorsport, which I haven't got a lot of at the minute. I'm waiting on some. But the TAMIYA I've got a load of, so I've been using that. They both go down really well. I think the TAMIYA is a bit of a darker weave, so it's a different look. So base it on what you want. Having both in the arsenal is a good thing. And yeah, no complaints with how easy it conforms. It goes down absolutely beautiful. Like I said, we've got rid of all the excess moisture for pounding it with cotton bud. We've got some UMP strong. We're going straight to strong because I know that's what it takes to set it. We're just going to pop it on top, let it sit for a couple of minutes, and then we'll gently work it. And the main goal here is to get the back piece, that flap underneath the spoiler, with no creases. So this is what we're going to aim to do. So let it sit for a minute, come back, work it again, and just keep working over it gently with the brush until you're happy it's soft enough to be conformed over the edge. Doesn't take long at all. Works really well, this stuff. Like I say, once you're happy, you can start pushing it around with a cotton bud at your finger. Just be gentle with it because you don't want to rip it now. You may find some areas that curve around, maybe need a little nick out of them with some scissors, just to allow it to fold around cleanly. But on this piece we didn't, it just went around all by itself. Absolutely beautiful. Pretty trouble free and easy. And then I'm just going to remove any excess from underneath with our blade. Nice sharp blade again, straight across. Get the excess out and then we can set it fully underneath. With decals, especially large pieces of carbon, it is vital you get all of it set properly. I've had 2K get under decals before that haven't quite been properly set in place, and it will get under them and lift them because it's just what it will do. So always make sure everything is set. Yeah, you can even leave this for an hour or two and come back and hit it again. A little bit of heat doesn't harm either. So roof rails to do, sadistically, these are actually quite trouble-free to do. So I just lined it up, got them conformed in place, cut off any excess, and hit them with the decal solutions as before. The rear panel under the roof spoiler, which looks wonderful, look at that, beautiful piece of carbon. We've made a template again and pop that in place. Repeated that for the other side as well. And there we go, set in place, absolutely wonderful. Really adding some nice detail to this now, really bringing it alive. The side pieces were a bit of a nightmare. So again, big long piece, get it all in place, conformed with the decal solution, and then in with the blade and try and follow that line as good as you can. It took me 2 attempts on one side and 1 attempt on the other. It's just using a steady hand and a bit of confidence, and pray to God that you don't slip and ruin the paint. So it needs quite a confident hand, this. Obviously you've got to cut the top and the bottom and those angles as well. So like I say, be confident. You can do it. And if not, well, you can always repaint and start over should you need to. And there we go. Cut off, cut the panel line and then pull back any excess gently. There we go, top and bottom. It's tedious work, but it will add to the look of the car. And then once you're happy you've got it there, get some decal solution on there again and just make sure it's all fully conformed into place. And then once you're happy with that, get a cotton bud and just gently make sure it's all pushed in to everywhere it needs to go, like so. Repeat for the other side, job done. Front splitter, we just cut a piece, slotted it in, hit it with the decal solutions. Had to do it on a little bit of a curvature to get it to fit in there. And just like the roof spoiler, just work it until you're confident it can be folded round. And the back piece. Now this was a bit of a pig, probably a good 15 or 16 pieces. So I start off at the top with this piece thinking this will never go around here. There's no way I'll get this big piece to conform in place. But I thought, you know what, we'll give it a shot. So we lined it up at the top as good as we possibly can, hit it with the decal solutions, and would you believe it, it went in. It conformed really well. I went into those recesses really nicely. So happy days with that one. And then just keep working it and working it. And again, until you're happy to put it round. Now, if you need to cut it, pick a strategic point to cut. We're going to have to piece this regardless. So I know that's going to happen. So we just cut it and then fold that piece round like so. As you can see how deep that is underneath. There's a lot of surface area to cover. And just keep working on it with the strong solution, pushing it in until you get each piece conformed. And then we can get another piece of carbon, cut it roughly to size, line up the weave, get it in place, patch it up. As long as you line the weave up, it is almost unnoticeable on parts like this. You have to look really close to see that it's been pieced because it does conform really nicely together. Just a little moment there to admire that spoiler, just how nice that looks. And the roof rails, looking absolutely beautiful. Very happy with that job. Like I say, a good, I don't know, 12 to 18 pieces of carbon under here for this piece. Just pieced it and pieced it and pieced it until we were happy. Once all the carbon's done, we've got a TAMIYA panel line wash. We've added some black to grey to get a nice dark grey. Beautiful thin panel lines on these kits. They are lovely. And just let the capillary action carry it through. There you go, nice and simple. And then leave that for a good half an hour and you can come back and wipe off the excess. So really nice. A little bit of Santador odorless mineral spirit on a cotton bud. Remove as much as you can with the cotton bud. Then come in with some dry tissue and it will pick up a bit of the Santador off the body and you can wipe off any excess. Now, the biggest thing I can say about this is if you think you've got it all off, leave it 10 minutes, come back, and I bet you spot a piece you've missed. Now, the spray booth. We've changed some stuff in here today. I'm going to talk about in a second when I'm putting the tack coat down, but we've changed a few things. But first off, we're going to mix 6ml of clear to 2ml of hardener and then 2ml of thinner. So that's our 3:1:1 mix. We're going to use this mix entirely, so just about getting enough to do this body. We're not going to 2K the door handles or the antenna because they're small parts. I don't think they need it. So we'll do those later on with some Mr. Hobby clear along the wing mirrors that still need carbon fibre in too. So we get everything mixed together. We get our 2ml of hardener in there, mix that up properly. So 6ml of your clear, 2ml of your hardener, give it a good stir to get the chemical reaction going, and then we grab our 2ml of our thinner and get that in there as well. Don't use the same pipette, use a fresh one. Mix that together till it goes clear. And I've got a 190 micron strainer to strain it through to make sure I get no bits in. Anti-static brush again. As you can see, I've flattened all the paint, it's all uniform now. All our carbon work's looking absolutely stunning. Looking really good. Now, what have I changed from last time? Well, first of all, let's go with the basics. So we've gone back to the 0.3mm apex. The way I used to do it, and we're going to come back a little bit more distance from the model. Again, how I used to do it. So we're probably about 10 centimeters away from the model, 10-12 centimeters, and we're just going to mist on a coat with the larger spray pattern, as you can see, until we get a nice even tack coat over the whole body. Now, what else have we changed? Well, we closed the window. Normally I always have a window open, just a crack to allow an airflow through. I've closed the window. Normally I always hoover the room, vacuum the room the day before. We've not done that either. And that way we get less disturbance of dust. If you've ever felt the hoover, we've got a Dyson and the fan is a hell of a powerful thing. And I'm just imagining it blowing the dust around the room, something rotten. So decided against that. The window's shut. We've sprayed the water down on the surface as usual. And if you look at the filter at the back, I put 2 pieces of kitchen paper in front of it. And what's that's doing there, it's restricting the airflow a little bit and slowing down the filter. And you could literally hear it slow down a tad with the paper in front of it. Now, my theory is that won't allow as much airflow through and won't pull as heavy a draw through it and maybe not pull as much dust through. Now, whatever it did worked because we got hardly any dust in this at all, probably 4 or 5 spots, mainly in the roof and the bonnet, compared to the dozen or so we've had in the last couple of clear coats. And more importantly, we're coming back from the model a little bit. We didn't get any runs, and we got a really good 2K job off this, which will speak for itself at the end. But like I say, try these things and see if they work, but I'm definitely going to stick with a larger needle because it's the way I've always done it. I changed to a 0.2 a while back, and it did work for a while, but I was getting in a bit too close with it, and I think that was the downfall of it. So I think the larger from further back is just giving a bit more beneficial atomization of the 2K rather than going in too heavy too close. So like I say, we got our tack coat down, which is just a very light coat, which it'll look very orange peely. And the theory of this is we let that off gas for 10 minutes. Then it'll go unbelievably tacky, and when we come with our wetter coats, it should stop any runs because the paint adheres to the tacky paint. So yes, that's the idea. So there's the full tack coat done. As you can see going down, not even remotely trying to get a gloss coat, just trying to get a nice even coat, quick spin round and in the box. And 10 minutes later, we're back for our second coat. So again, keeping our distance, going a little bit heavy with the trigger this time because we are trying to put down a little bit more of a wetter coat. Again, we're not going for a perfect wet coat. We are going to end up with an orange peely finish, but we are trying to get quite a bit of the 2K down on there. Also remember all the wheel arches and all those nooks and crannies around the spoilers, the diffuser, the splitter, etc. All those lights at the front, tops and bottoms of the bumpers, tops of the doors. Lots of the areas need to be, familiar with and careful of. And as you can see, we're just getting down. It's a wet coat, but it's still orange peeled inside. But spraying from further back, it's giving us a nice spray pattern, as you can see. It is going down really well. Just carefully spinning it around. And just putting on that nice mist coat of 2K. Definitely worth a lot better this. Got a lot less dust, a lot less contaminants, a lot less 2K going down, and a lot less runs of risk of runs, which is one of the main concerns we've had on the past couple of clear coats, where myself, I've just been putting too much down. Because if you don't know, the Fleet Master, I ruined the paint job on that by putting on too heavy, and the Jetta, I started to do the other day, I ruined the paint job on that. They've both been stripped back to bare resin and plastic, and they'll live another day. But we're not going to see those projects for a while, but we will get back to them at some point. But there we go. That's the kind of second coat I want. It's glossy without being perfect. And then our third coat, we're going to come in, we're going to slow the pattern down a little bit. From a little bit further distance, you know, as before, about 12 to 15 centimeters away. And that nice mist pattern, just mist it on until we get a nice coat. Spin it around to the other side, and then we're going to put it back in our box for 3, 4, 5 minutes, wherever you find it needs, and let it self-level itself out before we get it out and have a look again. Don't forget, with 2K, what you're left with at the end of the spray session is what it will roughly dry with. If you've got the smallest amount of orange peel, it may self-level out, but it's always worth that little bit of an extra spray to get rid of it, knowing that it will self-level. And there's a fine line between going too far, but you can push it a little bit more than you think. So as you'll see with the spray pattern now, we are overlapping the clear as well to make sure we get that nice wet coat. As you can see, we get a nice wet coat now. Now, they will self-level a little bit, so don't get too hung up on it just yet, which is why I say after spraying this, pop it back in your covered area. I've got a box just above that it sits in, and leave it for a couple of minutes and let it self-level. But looking good so far, not too bad at all. But like I said, we're going to put it back in the box for 5 minutes. Here we go, 5 minutes later, pull it back out. Look at that, you can see where it's self-leveled now. We've got a nice gloss coat. It's looking really good now. We do have a few hints of orange peel just in a few places on that rear quarter, the top right side of the bonnet. There's a little tiny bit on the roof in place. You can just see the ripples a little bit. So it does just need a touch more. Now, if you are spinning the bodies around like this, make sure you're confident in wherever you've stuck it to. I am, hence why I'm doing this. But if you find it with orange peel, just put a light mist over it again. Don't go mad. And like I say, what you're left with now is what you're going to get. So you want to get rid of any orange peel at this point and save any heartache and hassle later on. Just a quick look underneath, get under the bottom of that diffuser. But it's looking really, really good. You see, I'm doing a much finer pattern now. There's not a lot of paint coming out there at all. Just trying to put down a fine mist coat, and then it'll self-level again. As you can see, the roof's looking a lot better. The bonnet is much, much nicer. That's looking really good. Quick go over the roof, just to get rid of any excess orange peel that might be there. And there we go. Like I say, there's no rush. You don't have to stick with that 3-coat rule. You can just keep putting it down till you're happy. Put a thinner coat down until you're happy. But look at that colour. Beautiful. Now, the colour's a lot lighter on camera. This has been put back in the case for another couple of minutes. I've just pulled it out to have a look. And there's no orange peel. You can just see some ripples. And I know it'll self-level out, so I'm going to leave it alone, where it's just not quite perfectly smooth. I know the self-leveling effect of 2K will take care of that. But you'll see here now how the lights, because they're so bright in my spray booth, they always lighten the paintwork a little bit. Because when I take a picture with the phone, it shows kind of the true colour. So the true colour of this thing is not quite as light as this colour, but not quite as dark as it looks in the pictures here. It's in between. The camera phone darkens it, and the camera filming lightens it, so it's in between these colours. It's not quite this dark, but this is as we left it there then. This is still wet, literally out the spray gun, so I thought I'll grab a few quick pics as we're looking at it, and it looks stunning. The blue's absolutely lovely. We've got a nice deep clear coat, which is what we want. We've got no runs, we've got no orange peel, No decals have lifted. Everything just looks great. I know this is going to self-level a little bit more. So like I say, where there's not quite that perfect clear coat, it will self-level later on. Inside the boot there, we're not worried about that. We painted flat black or a satin black later. But all the carbon work looks good. All the gloss coat looks fantastic. Around the windows, inside doesn't matter because we've got window acetate to go in there. But yeah, wonderful. Whatever I've done here has worked. I think it's a combination of not hoovering, keeping the windows shut, and using a larger spray paint on the airbrush has worked out brilliant here. We've got a few specks of dust in the finish, but overall, really happy with the clear coat. Now, if we fast forward 3 hours later, you can see just how well that's self-leveled now. Absolutely beautiful. Like I say, we've got a few specks of dust. Not the end of the world. Easily fixable. It looks so light under this light. It's crazy. But we've got a beautiful, beautiful clear coat. The carbon looks great. It does look absolutely stunning. Very happy with this. This has turned out really well. Like I say, just be careful. If we knock the light off, we can see the reflection of all my door and window and me. There's me there, look. So you can see the high shine. Like I say, we've got a little bit of dust. You can see the antenna hole at the back. That's not a problem at all. And then this will be left now for a good week to fully cure. It's a nice hot day today. It was 22 degrees. It's still 26 degrees in my modelling cave, 9 o'clock at night while I'm editing this video. And this will dry nicely in that temperature. Anything over 15 degrees C is what you need for 2K. And we're going to put that away. So there we go. There's part 1 of the build complete. So there we go. All done. Wonderful. Absolutely lovely kit. Started that on Saturday morning. It is now Monday evening. So good progress there. Can't fault that at all. Bit of hard work. It's now, it's 9:15 at night. And I'm sat here editing videos for you lot. So hope you enjoyed that video. I enjoyed doing it. They're very enjoyable kits to work on, these alpha models. They are superbly made, and the questions of whether they're worth their money keep cropping up because there's not a lot to them, and admittedly there's not. But when some of the newer plastic kits are reaching £70 for likes of Bell kits, is £150 that much to spend for a perfectly cast resin beautiful kit, highly detailed with lots of PE, metal badges, and always of kits that nobody else makes in plastic. Who else makes an RS4 in plastic, or even many Audis? There's not that many at all. So that's kind of their selling point to me, is hard to find kits and superb quality. But obviously not for everybody, but they are for me. I've still got another 9 in the stash and look forward to building every single one of them. And yeah, I'm eager to get on with this one. So very happy how that 2K worked out. Looks like the changes work really well. Like I say, I think a combination of keeping the windows shut, not hoovering beforehand. The paper over the filter seems to slow that down a bit as well. Whether that's making any real difference to the dust, I don't know. But spraying from further back with the 0.3 like I used to is definitely worked much better. So that's something we'll be sticking with as well. So there we go. There's part 1 of that done. As always, want to support the channel, there's a Patreon link down below. You get 2-week early access on all the videos. So if you're watching this over on ISM, where patrons have seen this 2 weeks ago, there's always 5 or 6 videos on any release just sat there waiting to be watched. But don't worry, after 2 weeks they do go on ISM for free anyway. But it's just a way of supporting the channel and keeping these videos going, as well as the daily live streams. You get a Wednesday Patreon exclusive live stream in the morning. And it's just a good way of knowing you keep these videos going, because without your support, I couldn't do this. There's also a PayPal me and a Buy Me a Coffee link if you want to make a one-time donation as well. And of course, make sure you look through the description at all the links. There's a link to my new Styrene and Machine Facebook page dedicated to anything automotive, styrene, modelling, and full size. I've combined them both. Go over there and have a look at that. You've got ISM Facebook page and forum, umpretail.com. You've got the group build page, Software Hangout group, the live page, my own Paul ISM modelling page. You've got my scale mates. You've got an email address to get in touch with me. Like I say, all the ways to support the channel. Yeah, that's it. And of course, make sure you sub to the channel, click the bell notification, give the video a thumbs up, and make sure you click that bell to get notified of the latest videos. and leave a comment. Love reading your comments. Might not reply to them all, but I read every single one and appreciate the time people take to watch the videos and leave some feedback. So thank you all. Question. Can't think of a question. Let me have a think. What's the biggest change you've made in modelling that's made the biggest difference? I.e. going from brush painting to airbrushing, changing from acrylics to lacquers, you know, things like that. Moving genres. What's the biggest thing that's made a difference to the hobby? Let me know the answer down below. For me, I've always airbrushed from the start, really, so that's a given. I think developing products like our decal solutions, which I did, they work wonderful, save so much time and hassle. But I think lately for me, the biggest benefit I've noticed is going to lacquer paints. Huge difference. Much faster and easier for me to work on, especially when filming, because time is money in a way. So the quicker drying time, quicker cleanup, less fuss in spraying, because water-based paints can be a pain to spray. I think that has helped massively. So what is your change you've made that's benefited you in modelling? Let me know your thoughts. There we go. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.